Hey everybody, this is Sonny Wasserman back for the 270th, count them 270, Green Grassroots Emergency Election Protection Coalition Zoom call. It's great to see everybody. I wore a Hawaiian shirt for the festive celebration of the fact that there has been a change made at the Kennedy Center, which we will have. MYLA RESON is with us. She watched the live stream. And so, Myra, we're going to call on you for a full report. We got a really full boat today. We're going to be joined by the great GREG PALAST to talk about election protection. We already are joined by Anthony Flaccavino, who has a great campaign well, I'll let him describe it. And we also want to discuss yesterday's No King's Day. And if any of you were participating in the bloodbath on the White House lawn, we can talk to you or your doctors, whichever one you prefer. We're joined already by Tatanka Bricca. Tatanka, you're there? Can you just say hi? Tatanka has been involved for many, many years in the uh, question of visitation from outer space. And as many of you probably know, Steven Spielberg has released a movie. Hi, Tatanka. How you
Hi,
doing?
good.
I want to say in passing that Tatanka is the chair of the KPFK board, the Pacifica radio station in Los Angeles. And I got to say, man, you have evolved. He has become the greatest facilitator of what were once impossible meetings and just become a total master and got us in and out yesterday in a KPFK board meeting in a flat hour and a half. Myla, I think that's probably a world record. We should call the Guinness Book of Records for that one, Tatanka. You did a masterful job, and we really proud that you're going to continue to do it. So thank you for that. And he's going to talk, be an hour and a half from now, but he's going to talk to us about the Spielberg movie, which is called A Disclosure Day. It's kind of a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which happened, a half century ago. I watched the trailer for Disclosure Day, and it was pretty powerful. So those of you may want to stick with us because I like to leave it stuff like that to the end so that we can discuss in greater detail. So in the second hour, Tatanka Brick is going to talk to us about that, and then about Disclosure Day, the Spielberg movie, and then at some future point, Tatanka will bring with him Danny Sheehan, who's been on this issue also and has testified in front of Congress. Danny's quite a presenter, so that's coming up. We're also joined by Dave Saltman, the one of the two people on the phone call who met Walter Cronkite. I'm the other one, but unlike my meeting with Walter Cronkite, David, did Walter Cronkite ever yell at you? When I met with Walter Cronkite, he was yelling at me. Did he ever yell at you, Dave? Dave Saltman? Well, Dave will have to unmute. At any rate, we have a tremendous amount of stuff to cover. We're going to go through a laundry list of how the 20. Oh, there you are, Dave. Dave, did Walter Cronkite ever yell at you?
No, I gotta
No.
say, he and I made a film together, and we had a great time doing it. It was really a landmark in my career. I don't know about his, but it was. I was
Well,
very honored to be
it
working.
was clearly a landmark in his, but not quite as major one as it was in yours.
No, he
But
was very good to work with. Um, I had no complaints about him at all. He was,
okay, well, everybody said he's a great guy. I must have got him.
yeah.
Well, I had a way of doing that with famous people.
You
But
you 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 got him where it hurt, if I remember. if I
Yeah, I
remember
did.
the story correctly.
I talked to him about his coverage of 3 Mile Island. He was not happy, but neither
Right.
was I. So what can I tell you? Anyway, so listen, we're going to get to Dave Saltman in the second hour. Also, we're going to be talking about the corpse of CBS and how to build an alternative media network. I'm sure Tatanka and all the rest of you will be very, very interested. Now, we have wonderful Alison Green who's going to talk to us about election protection. But first, let's start. MYLA, can you give us a blow by blow of what you saw on the live stream of the removal of the Donald Trump name from the Kennedy Center? I think it's a major moment in our history, and you were an eyewitness. MYLA, you got it on mute. There we go.
All right. So,
Yes.
so um, Alex Acosta, who had his pass unceremoniously stripped from him during the first regime, the first run by of Trump early on, has been just doing amazing work. He's now an independent journalist. He's on Substack and on YouTube, and he was out there streaming the removal of Trump's name from the John F. Kennedy Memorial for the Performing Arts. The Center for the Performing Arts is actually a memorial, and Trump was in court fighting all day, fighting the removal, and the courts said no way. The appellate court said no way, and that the name of Donald Trump had to be removed, and so the crew took hours and hours, and there was a lightning storm that kind of interrupted the erection of the scaffolding, but the scaffolding took hours and hours to go up. And after the scaffolding went up way above Trump's name, they started putting up a tarp. And the tarp, they put the tarp up that completely obscured the face of the Kennedy Center, where over the name Donald Trump. And then around just before midnight, there were a lot of journalists there, and journalists went to the side of the tarp where they could kind of see that the workers were actually taking down the letters. So a lot of journalists took pictures and reported that they had begun to take down the letters. And the only journalist who stayed there was Jim Acosta and his crew. They stayed and they reported that all of the letters were coming down. In fact, his Acosta's intrepid reporter, gosh, all of a sudden I think his name was Sam. Acosta went to take a shower and get a little bit of rest, and while he was away, all of the letters came down, and all of the letters came down within about 10 minutes. So they took hours and hours and hours and hours and tried to delay it, but it only took about 10 minutes, right around 3 a.m. in Washington, D.C., for the letters to come down. And now we all await to see who will come up with a projector and project the images of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein and Melania and Ghislaine Maxwell all palling around together. That's, I think, that's what it will take to actually bring down the tarp that is covering the entrance, the facade of the Kennedy Center. So that's my report.
Well, wonderful. I predicted Trump will run a nationwide auction for the letters.
Right.
And maybe we should pool our money and see if we could buy one of the letters. So thank you for that report, MYLA. I really appreciate that. And I do want to thank Steve Caruso for engineering, Mike Hersh for co-hosting. And Mike, MYLA mentioned the name of the First Lady. You had an alternative name for the First Lady. Do you remember what it was?
Malaria.
Oh, okay. All right. We just wanted to get that clarified. So Chris Chris Alexander says that he wants to buy a vowel. That's funny. I like that a lot. Okay, so we're
Big
going to
welcome
start.
to Greg Palast.
Oh, Greg Palast, join us, please. You're going to start with us unless Mayor Heidi hasn't showed up. Is that right?
Not yet.
Greg, what did you say that Mayor Heidi is with us or not? We
Not
don't
yet.
see.
I'm trying to chase her down.
Okay, well, listen, we got Greg Palast. Greg, show your face and your infamous hat, if you would, please. It's great to see you. Great to have you with us. And we discussed in great detail a lot of the things. What we're going to do here is we're going to present later on a laundry list of concerns about the 2026 election. And as many of you can guess, this series of Zoom gatherings, and I like to call them gatherings rather than shows, has dates to April 2020, when we were all concerned about what was going to happen in the 2020 election, and rightly so. And coming from a background in Ohio 2004, we saw what could be done there. And Greg, are we getting you here on the picture here? There we go. There's a list. There's a beginning laundry list of things that we're going to be concerned about with the 2026 election, starting with dark money, gerrymandering, strip and flip, the idea of stripping the voter rolls and flipping the vote count. Greg's fabulous reporting on vigilante intimidation, the voter rolls and data fraud, kind of a repeat of strip and flip, ghost voting, which is become more of a concern after the primaries. Maiden names, that's a reference to the fact that more than well over 50% of the women in the electorate were opposed to Trump. But now there's an issue, of course, of with the push for voter ID that women's birth names do not match their married names, and could be requiring birth certificates that very, very few people have. And so that's an issue we're going to talk about. The lack of drop boxes combined with the attack on vote by mail. If you can't vote by mail and you want to just drop off your ballot, there's also no drop boxes. I remember last election I was at in Franklin County, Ohio, which has over 1 million people, there was one drop box. God knows where it was. And this is a major issue we're going to talk about. Machine rigging, we've had a lot about that. I don't know if Ray Lutz is going to show up. Fake auditing as well. And then if you all have things to add to this list, but this is going to be the foundation of what we deal with every week going forward until the 2026 election. Now, the great pioneer in all this, do we have Greg? I don't see his face.
Yes. Can you see me? Let me see here. Let me see if this
isn't that a Who song?
There we go.
There we go. Oh, okay. Oh, there you are, Greg. All right, good.
There I am.
So Greg is talking us from lovely Southern California. We had a long discussion last night, but it was not mostly about voter protection, I have to say. So Greg, you're looking at the guy who really broke the first stories of the 21st century about election theft. In Florida 2000, the governor, Jeb Bush, the brother of George W. Bush, who was the Republican nominee, was in charge of the voter rolls in Florida. And while everybody was, certainly in the Democratic Party, was screaming at Ralph Nader for daring to run for president, Greg Palast alone, you didn't have any help, was pointing out that the voter rolls have been completely manipulated by Jeb Bush to the tune of at least 100,000 votes, which was well over however many Ralph Nader got. And Greg really pioneered the reality that Al Gore was the rightful winner. And I hate to say rightful winner because he didn't fight, for what he should have been. And not only didn't Al Gore fight, I'm going off here, but Al Gore was
Yeah,
vice
don't.
president. Well, but he was vice president of the United States. He was in charge of
Go
Congress.
ahead.
A joint session.
Hardly
This
a
was
minute.
unforgivable. A joint session of Congress. The
Hello?
Black Caucus requested a constitutional investigation of the Florida delegation, and Al Gore refused to allow it to happen. Greg was then also our major support in Ohio 2004, when Bob Fitrakis and I broke a lot of the stories about the theft there, and he's been a pillar of the election protection movement ever since. So he has since made a fabulous movie. Greg, are you having a problem there? Tech problem?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because you were cutting out a bit. If I'm, I'll let you know if there's.
Well, you're cutting out again. So we're going to have to deal with your technical issues there. So Greg has been all over the media with this story almost alone. And since then, he's gone to Georgia and he's made a fabulous movie called Vigilantes, Inc., which many people on this call have seen. And we're going to have him now to keynote to talk about election protection from his point of view, and then we'll go deeper into the laundry list. Is Greg available to be with us, or are we still having technical problems with Greg Palast?
The second time he's dropped out. Oh, he's back. Hold on.
All right, Greg.
Wait.
I just gave you a stellar introduction. I told everybody about the Academy Award your documentary, Vigilantes Inc., deserved, but does not get. And now you're with us to talk about election protection. So tell us what's on your mind.
He may be gone. His instance is in the list, but he's not. No video, no audio. So
all right. Well, let's go back. Steve, if you'll post the list, and then we'll talk with Allison Steele until Allison Green until Greg somehow comes back. Can you post that laundry list of issues? So, in confronting what's going to happen here, and I think everybody is in agreement that the election of 2026 is going to decide whether or not the United States is going to be a democracy. I mean, I think that's pretty clear, and I think it's clear even to Donald Trump, who does not want it to be continue to be a democracy, as it were. So, number one is dark money. Number two is gerrymandering, strip and flip. But let's start with dark money. We all just got the announcement with his IPO on SpaceX that Elon Musk has become a trillionaire. Now, what does it mean in a democracy, in a country that purports to be a democracy, that a guy with Elon Musk's very widely stated, extremely hostile brand of politics has $1 trillion? It's staggering to think about. There you go. Dark money. In 2024, 1.9 billion. That's what we know about. And the question then becomes, and the first question we have to ask, what does money do in an election? If you've got $1 trillion and you have a political point of view, what can you do with $1 trillion to shape an election? Mike Hersh, did you want to say something to that before we keep going here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sonny. A week or so ago, we had a guest on, Walla Legay, who did a great job of explaining the threat of these data centers. And her chief rival, she's running for Congress. Whoever wins the primary in Maryland's 5th district is going to win in November. It's such a Democratic district. So they've loaded up the district with an Oracle lobbyist who's lobbied in favor of these data centers, and he's got almost unlimited amounts of money. And then there's another candidate who's actually a CEO for one of these health insurance companies, and she's just writing herself big fat checks. And they're trying to buy the primary, and if they win the primary, they're going to win the election in November. So now the lobbyists are not only bribing our elected officials, now they're going to be our elected officials. This
Yeah,
is absolutely ridiculous.
it
And
is.
I just want to say real quick about these data centers. I used to think they were like a Kinko's, like a little thing in a strip mall. These things are gigantic. There's one that's underway in Utah, twice the size of Manhattan Island, and it's going to suck up almost as much electricity as all of New York City, not just Manhattan, but all 5 boroughs. And if you saw the celebrations after the Knicks victory, that's a lot of electricity. We can't have this, and that's where this big money is going. But I see Greg is back, so I'm going to step aside and let Greg take over.
Greg, you could start your video, please.
I will try my.
Actually, you know what? Wait. Greg, don't start your video because I think you'll be good on audio, and it's a better likelihood that you won't have as much problem if you don't have your video.
Okay, no problem. Hang on.
We see how incredibly handsome you are, so let's proceed from there, and tell us about Vigilantes Inc. and your concerns about the 26th election.
Wait, I'm sorry, I really have to pull up my notes. Okay. Fuck. Sorry.
Okay.
I believe he said
Okay.
fudge.
Yeah. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. I got to
So-
find Harvey. I sent you some notes. Where the heck are they now? Suddenly.
All right. So
I'll call. You come back to me in a moment. Okay.
Okay. So when the question then, let's go to Alison Green. Alison, you've been studying, you've been doing these election theft issues for a long, long time. You've been with us on this our third straight week. We're glad to have you with us. Your
Thank
family
you for having
now.
me.
We do have
Yes.
over 60 people with us. So the question then becomes, here's the question we all want to ask.
Mhm.
There are three Supreme Court justices have
Yes.
allowed the unparalleled and unregulated and unstoppable, apparently, flood of money into our elections. The first was Lewis Powell. He was a friend of Richard Nixon's. He was hired by the Chamber of Commerce to write a memo on how corporations could and should take over our democracy. Right? The second was William Rehnquist. Rehnquist became chief, and then Nixon put Powell on the Supreme Court, where he single-handedly killed all attempts to regulate money in politics, right?
Mhm.
And then on came William Rehnquist, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, followed by John Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and they effectively have kept open the floodgates of big money into our politics. And so, Greg, are you free and clear now? Okay, so Allison, can you tell us in your work what exactly how does dark money manifest itself in our political process?
Okay, so first of all, I consider these Supreme Court justices as co-conspirators in a way. I mean, basically, Mitch McConnell brought in Citizens United. So you could almost look at what happened on the Supreme Court as being kind of in parallel with Mitch McConnell. And what happened with Mitch McConnell is that people kind of acknowledge that he kind of considers his legacy Citizens United and allowing dark money into our elections. But what many people don't know is that Mitch McConnell actually co-authored the legislation that we now know as HAVA. HAVA, the Help America Vote Act, in 2002 was passed. And I've got the video of Mitch McConnell saying, I was a co-author, I helped this happen. This is a legacy that he actually should be owning. But nobody really understands that when we actually migrated in 2002, what the Help America Vote Act did is it gave hundreds of billions of dollars to machine vendors to actually take over our elections as electronic voting. And that's something that almost none of our our allies around the world do. So we went down this path in 2002 of voting machines. And also, what my research has found, and what I think GREG PALAST has found too, is the voter rolls are maybe not the voting machines per se, they're voting databases. All of that is being handled by private corporations who have secrecy and have money. But the other way that this dark money is influencing things is, I personally consider what's happening in our elections in 2026 to be the greatest cover up next to the Epstein cover up. So basically, the Epstein cover up is something that doesn't happen for free. You don't get all of these people to be covering up these crimes without money behind it. And I think that that's actually what's happening in our elections, is that this dark money is coming in and making it almost impossible to break through the veil of secrecy that is actually ensuring that the votes can be manipulated for a predetermined outcome.
Right. So when we think of big money in politics, the first thing we usually think about is the massive amount of TV advertising that, unlimited TV ads, which we're starting to see, that we're seeing in Texas, we're seeing in Georgia, we're seeing all over the country. And we have this billionaire, the Trump Epstein billionaire class that
Mm-hmm.
has unlimited money to spend because they know they get the money back from the corruption in the government.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for those of you who have with a slight academic bent, there are four major pieces of Supreme legislation and Supreme Court decision that have allowed big money to flow in unfettered. The first one was Buckley versus Valeo, and there was also Bellotti. These are two decisions in which Lewis Powell participated when he was a Supreme Court justice. And since then, we've had Citizens United, which most people know about, and then McCutcheon. So these four pieces of legislation slash Supreme Court decisions are basically what have kept the floodgates open ever since. And so we start any discussion of elections in America with the fact that there's money pouring in that is unlimited and getting more unlimited. I mean, Elon Musk, I think there's a very strong case to be made that Elon Musk bought the 24 election that put Trump in the White House. Greg, are
Okay.
you back with us, by the way?
Yes, I am. I'm going to have to do this by phone. Of course, it always happens. My Wi-Fi works for a month, and the minute I get online. Anyway, I'll make it quick. This is GREG PALAST. Harvey gave me a wonderful introduction, and I want to just talk about the 5 quick topics. Can answer some questions as long as they're on the topics I can talk about. Race and voting is number one. And particularly, I want to get into the following issues of race and voting: the Ku Klux Klan Trump vote challenge game. Third, the ethnic cleansing of voter rolls. Fourth, the invasion of the alien voters, the issue of citizen, non-citizen voting. And 5, going postal, the attack on mail-in and drop box voting. So what I want to take on is some very practical matters real quick, and then give me your thoughts. And of course, you can always go to gregpalast.com, gregpalast.com. And I was hoping to send to the group or the list, but if you go there, let's start out with this, the first one. The challenge game. This is vitally important. Donald Trump hosted the launch of the film 2000 Mules at Mar-a-Lago, and run by a group, True the Vote, out of Texas. And they challenged in the 2020 election, they took this vote challenge game, first introduced by the Ku Klux Klan in 1946. Most states, and you see this especially in states like Georgia and Pennsylvania and Arizona and Nevada, in these swing states, they have laws left over from Jim Crow where any voter can challenge the right of any other voter to vote if you're in their county. Now, the Ku Klux Klan did this in 1946 and challenged almost every black voter, saying they weren't qualified to vote, and that allowed a Klansman to be elected governor. Now, under Georgia law, they've taken the Klan plan and moved it into cyberspace. What they do is that they make up lists, and True the Vote made up a list of 2 million voters last time. They're going to go at least that far. That they did in 2024, but a lot of states rejected their challenges. But now we have states that are saying you have to take the challenges, and so does the president. And talk about Elon Musk. That's one of the reasons he wanted to grab all the voter rolls, to say, we are going to check. We're going to challenge people. They don't live there, whatever. There's a lot of reasons. But again, it's not the government. It's individual vigilantes. And if you see my film, Vigilantes, Inc., which you can go to gregpalast.com, get it for free, or go to YouTube, vigilantes.com. It's worth it just for Rosario Dawson's narrations and introduction by Martin Sheen. And you will meet the people that were challenged, like Major Gamaliel Turner. Here's a black officer, career military, 70 years old. He's out in California, gets challenged by some schmuck in Dogpatch, Georgia, where he lives. And so he couldn't get his absentee ballot. And even though as a soldier, he's allowed an absentee ballot, even black soldiers, by the way, are allowed absentee ballots. And so they said, but Mr. Turner, you have been challenged. And he said, oh, great, 2 or 3, and all you have to do is come in and, prove you're a citizen and prove you live in Georgia. He said, so in other words, all I have to do is leave my base 2 or 3 days before the election, fly 2,700 miles, and prove that I'm a citizen again. And the reason he said again is because his family was his father, the Reverend Harold Turner, was co-founder of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference with Martin Luther King and Ralph Abernathy. So he did fly 2,700 miles. But imagine you've got 2 million overwhelmingly voters of color and some young voters too that they go after, who are not challenged by the government. They don't know they've been challenged. They could be challenged on election day. I'm working with the NAACP on that. And by the way, I am doing a new 6-part series on this new vote suppression trickery and what you can do about it. So that's the challenge game. The second thing is the ethnic cleansing of the voter rolls. Now, I did a report for the ACLU of Georgia and another one for Black Voters Matter in Wisconsin. And the states, so now those are the vigilante KKK challenges. This is the state challenge. So the states are sending out, what they're doing is that they've got their own evil little challenge list for all kinds of stuff. Like, for example, you're voting in 2 states. And how do they know that? Well, there's a Luis Garcia who voted in Arizona, and Luis Garcia that voted in Texas, and obviously they're the same voter. They have different middle names and they have different ages, but they are suspected of being, and this is important, suspected of being double voters. Even though you might say, well, Garcia is a typical Hispanic name, and they would say, yeah, but not for Republican. So they challenge these voters on this bogus, and what they do is, what we do is we send the voter a postcard. Now it's junk mail. You don't respond to that junk mail postcard, your ballot goes out. Your ballot goes out the window, or your registration goes out the window, and you may not know it. So for example, for the ACLU report, I went through 500,000 voters purged from the voter rolls by Brian Kemp when he was Secretary of State. Now, let me explain something. This ain't small stuff. This isn't 7 votes here and 3 votes there. 500,000 voters were removed. I got the guys from Microsoft, American Express, and with their what they call location experts. And they can tell you, and all these people were removed because they supposedly moved out of their counties and out of the, if you're not in Georgia, you can't vote in Georgia. So we went through the list, not sampling. We went literally, obviously, with major computer databases from, think about it. Amazon doesn't send the wrong tighty-whities to the wrong John Smith. They get it right. And so they gave us a list with names and addresses of 336,344 voters, names and addresses that were wrongly removed. And you wouldn't be surprised to know that they were mostly Black people and young people. That's just Georgia. So 60-some% of the names on these purge lists are voters at their legal addresses. Then we get, so that's the ethnic cleansing of the voter rolls we have to fight. The next thing we have to fight is this new business of stopping the alien voters from voting. And, you know, I've been, you know, I've seen a lot of spaceships land in New Mexico, but they never seem to vote. You know, you hand them those cards, say, you know, vote for this guy. You know, they're really uninterested in voting for some reason. So we don't have to worry about aliens except for the fact that they are falsely accusing Americans of being aliens. Now, this started a long time ago when I was investigating these accusations from the Heritage Foundation, a guy named Hans von Spakovsky, whom, by the way, Obama put on his voting reform panel. So that's why we don't have voting reform. So they're claiming that the Heritage claim that 6 million aliens are voting in our election. And so I asked him, I'm not looking for 6 million names. You can give me the names, because after all, you said they're aliens voting. Give me their names and their addresses and their registration and voter IDs, and I can, you know, it's all public information. And we'll hunt them down and we'll arrest them. And I said, but I don't need 6 million. Just give me the names of 6. They still haven't done it. But they're going to use, now what they're going to use is the SAFE database. Now, this is not the SAVE Act. They are related. The SAVE Act is that evil little system of blacklisting voters, a whole range of new Jim Crow tactics. In our 6-part series, we call Jim Crow Reloaded. And what's going to happen is that they're going to, the SAVE, so there's the SAVE Act, but there's the SAFE list. Now, the SAFE list is the list of people who've been deported by Homeland Security. And believe it or not, there are guys named, you know, Jose Rodriguez on the deportation list. And then they find out that there are millions of people, that there are thousands and thousands, that this Jose Rodriguez has somehow swam back from Salvador to vote in like 16 states several times. But this is, you know, and now Trump has really gone the next step, which gets us to the last point I want to cover quickly, is that he's telling the post office through executive order, unless someone is on a list of approved voters, they cannot send out an absentee ballot. Now, one of the problems with that is if you use the SAFE files, you're going to get it all wrong. Second, the United States has no list of legal voters. In fact, it's been the right wing who's endlessly fought against a national identity card, since we don't have them and we apparently don't want them and we don't need them. Where are these illegal, again, where are the illegal voters? I was not asking Georgia of the 500,000 voters to show me. I said, just show me 5 illegal voters out of the 500,000 you removed. Show me the 6 illegal alien voters out of the 6 million you claim. Show me all these people and that are doing this deep illegal citizens. And I've never, you know, there's no, by the way, I don't even know, you know, registration is also a ridiculous thing. Most nations don't have voter registration. It's ridiculous. It was originally put in to stop black people coming up from the South. It was first introduced in Philadelphia to stop black voters from voting because they'd have to register and they weren't allowed to. And in New York to stop Jews from voting because they only allowed registration on Saturday afternoons. And so this is not, I'm not making this
But
up.
they did it at the synagogues.
Yeah. So the thing is, so it's an old, you know, so vote, there's nothing new under the sun. You know, the whole, as Thomas Jefferson said, one of the most difficult things he ever did was get the vote for Catholics. And that's why we have a Second Amendment, because you had to swear when you voted that you didn't have a dual allegiance. In other words, you weren't a papist who was secretly controlled by the Pope. Today, we've changed that to say you can't vote if you're Jewish because you have dual identities. So we're going back to that, but that's you know, not everyone agrees with it. Then the final attack is, which takes us over to when I said Trump will not let ballots be sent out. Now, I'm going to have some faith in even our ridiculous, insane, Trumpified courts that will not stand. But get ready. And finally, it's going, the issue of Jim Crow is going postal. So we have a massive attack on mail, and this is the last point. We have a massive attack on mail-in voting. And again, we go back to that film 2000 Mules. Go see Vigilantes Inc. and you'll see it's really fancy. They say that Jewish billionaires, Zuckerberg and Soros, are giving black men, and I'm not making this up, this is the most influential film of the century, which Donald Trump claimed that, and he's right. They say that these Jewish billionaires are paying $10 a piece to black scoundrels who will stuff ballot drop boxes with fake ballots. They get $10 each to commit this felony crime on camera, because every drop box, certainly in Georgia and in most states, has a camera over it. They don't operate without a camera showing the voter dropping in the ballot. And by the way, if you think your mail-in ballot is secret, not exactly. Look at the barcode on the outside of the envelope, which is why you have to return that envelope, because it's unique to you. So you cannot print up and stuff a bunch of ballots into a drop box, because each ballot is identified with you and identified with your signature, which must be checked. So when Trump demanded find me 11,000 votes, which he told to the Secretary of State of Georgia, who wanted to comply, by the way. This guy's a piece of crap. He's a racist. I mean, he has everything but a white hood. But he didn't want to go to jail for Trump. Remember, these guys all got indicted, including Trump, for election manipulation under RICO. That's a federal multi-year sentence, and under state RICO. It fell, Trump outsmarted the Georgia crew. But all I'm telling you is that the way he was going to find those 11,000 votes was by disqualifying ballots, saying, oh, this is an illegal alien. This signature is wrong. The wrong envelope was used, blah, blah, blah. Now so he wanted to comply. The Republican Party has seized the ballots. They have looked at those signatures. They've looked at those ballots, 70,000 ballots in Atlanta, 3 times. And they couldn't find not a single illegal ballot, not one. But there's an attack on mail-in voting and mail-in ballots. But the biggest problem is that the black community knows you hand your ballot to the post office. You don't know if it's going to get there. Major Turner, the guy who got challenged, he finally got his ballot the next election. He sent it 10 days before the election. And I know that because I have a photo of him mailing his ballot. I have a photo. Took 10 days. It was 10 days before the election. They said it didn't arrive in time because it's black ballot, so they throw it out. But disqualified. So, black people rely on ballot drop boxes in Atlanta. So Georgia, for example, in SB 202, changed the law to say that the only two black cities, have to reduce the number of drop boxes to 1 per 100,000 voters. The other is that in white counties, they had to increase the number of ballot drop boxes. And that's happening all over America. So there you are. So I go back to my point number 1, the 5 points, but now number 1, to tie it all up. What do these things have in common? As I said when I was lecturing about this at Harvard, I said, well, we use the polite term vote suppression, but what we really mean is fucking black people out of their vote. And then I said, can I say that at Harvard? And this professor said, well, you just did. So there you go. And so that's my point. This is about the original sin, race in America, and how it has affected our votes, and what we have to do to join with the groups I'm working with, Black Voters Matter Fund, ACLU, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, Voto Latino, and the other groups that are fighting, which are mostly Black, Hispanic, and we have gotten some good help from Indivisible at times, and so that's good too. And
Greg, we're happy to have with us Ray MCCLENDON, who you've worked with for years, who's in Atlanta and right in the heart of this. Ray, do you want to jump in and comment on what Greg has told us here?
Well, hey, Greg is absolutely on point,
Thank you.
as he usually is. And I'm going to ask Greg, do you think you have Vigilantes Inc.?
Yes.
Is it now time to have vigilantes.gov, because it's really our government that is actually the one that is overruling the rule of law and piercing all of the laws that actually protect our votes, and actually disrupting the voting process to destabilize black voters uh, by the very power of the government. When we see what's going on now, it's not the individual quacks, it's the actual government using not a bully pulpit, but all of the levers of government
Yes.
to disrupt the black vote.
Yes, thank you. You're always on point. And again, I emphasize it's our job to join up with the activist groups. There will be a showing of Vigilantes Inc. Obviously, it's all on YouTube now. DiCaprio and Jamie Foxx paid for that, so it's all up on YouTube. But it's nice to get together at events so we can organize. And so we're going to have a showing in Columbus, Georgia, on June 27. And then in July 30, there'll be many other showings, but in July 30, we'll be at the National Press Club showing the film in Washington with whistleblowers.org. So forward. Any other questions?
Well, Ray, you're one of the groups that's been working with Greg. How successful do you think you're being in terms of counteracting this stuff?
Well, the main thing right now is preparation for the onslaught that we think is coming. That's why I not so jokingly talked about vigilantes.gov, because it's going to be the government that is going to have a full-on assault going into the fall. I just heard a powerful presentation at an event that we co-sponsored here in Atlanta from Professor Sherlyn Ifill, who, as many of you know, is the former head of the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. And she talked about some of the things we need to be prepared for, which is there will be ICE at ballot locations, potentially the National Guard being called up. There will be the attacks that we've already seen, where the government will be used to attempt to disrupt mail-in balloting by having the U.S. Postal Service refuse to deliver mail-in ballots from states that have not acquiesced to provide their voter rolls to the federal government. There will be further attempts at purges and intimidation by the FBI and Border Patrol, especially in those high targeted areas from Atlanta to Cleveland to Philadelphia, et cetera. So we're preparing for all of those things in Georgia. Election protection, poll monitors, poll watchers are going to be more important than ever, because in this case, the government is going to be the factor that tries to undermine our ability to be safe and secure and go into the polls.
Oh my God. Very well stated. Thank you. Ruth Strauss is an Alabaman as well as a heart doctor. And Ruth, you have seen Vigilantes Inc. How was the popcorn?
I was distracted from the popcorn by the movie.
Okay.
It's a great, great, wonderful film, and everybody should see it, and then, email the link to your friends as I did. Thank you so much, everybody. My question is this. Oh, I have two. One, Ray, I love Gwen Ifill, and her mother was wonderful too. Is the thing that you're talking about, this wasn't my original question, but is what you're talking about, that forum, is that available for us to see anywhere?
Uh, I'll send the YouTube link to Mike, and he can
Okay.
get it out.
Okay,
Great.
terrific. What I get, no, here's what I wanted to say. On Tom Hartman today, I heard something very chilling. I mean, it's bad enough about what happens when you get to the ballot box, but what he was talking about, and maybe Steve Caruso knows about this, apparently the FBI raided a group in Cleveland, a collective that is just registering people to
Yeah,
vote.
yeah.
So
Thanks, Ruth. We're on it.
that is
We're on that.
really chilling. Go ahead.
Yeah, we have a guest lined up to discuss that exactly. And thank you so much,
Perfect.
Ruth, for raising it.
Yeah, thank
Okay.
you, Ruth. You're always on target. Steve Caruso, LYNN FEINERMAN. I want to welcome Dennis Bernstein from KPFA in Berkeley, in San Francisco Bay Area, California, to the call. I don't know. I'll be with you later tonight, Dennis. But great to have you with us. LYNN
Yeah.
FEINERMAN, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Steve. Ray, I wanted to know, there was a big kerfuffle about Georgia, the Georgia legislature deciding that they were going to decide about whether to get rid of the touchscreen voting machines and put Georgia on their emergency system, which only goes by paper ballots and risk-free audits. Have you heard anything about that? Because Marilyn Marks, who we interviewed, said that that's a critical thing to have happen. Otherwise, those touchscreens can be easily manipulated.
No, I haven't heard anything about that. We have a special session of the state legislature that starts on Wednesday. At that session, the main focus will be on redistricting, where they intend to, the majority intends to gerrymander at least one of the Black congressional seats out of existence, and possibly a third of the state legislative Black districts out of existence. So that's the number one. That's the number one issue in the special session. The second priority issue in the special session is that the state legislature agreed in 2024 to get rid of the QR codes, not get rid of the machines, but get rid of the QR codes from the paper ballots. That process was not completed, and it was not funded. So they've got to come back and clean that up for the 2026 general election in order to determine if they're going to actually impose the 2024 law to get rid of QR codes, and if so, what will be the guidance and direction going forward. Now, the state election board did some grandstanding and said that the state the state election board was instructing the local election boards to prepare to do hand ballots, but they have no jurisdictional authority to make that claim. It's only the state legislature giving that authority to by law to the Secretary of State, and through the Secretary of State to the local election boards to establish the methodologies that will be used for the election process. So all of that will hopefully be sorted out in this special session. But when you get them together for a special session, Lord knows what we're going to end up with.
Steve Caruso and Greg Palast, are you still with us, Greg? You still on the
Yes.
phone? Okay,
Yes.
great. Well, chime in anytime you want. Steve Caruso, go ahead.
Yeah, Greg, if you want to try your camera again, it's up to you. But go with the
Let's
voter
see if I have
list
Wi-Fi.
and the Ohio raid. They are questioning people that are registering, going out of their way as volunteers and registering people that vote. So here you got an instance, and we found, with the help of ALISON GREENE, some potential ghost voters in Ohio. First name A, first name AB, first name ABC, things like this that shouldn't be on the voter rolls, and they're allowing them to stay there where they can use them as, and Allison will address this later, as a vote bank so that they can replace actual real voters with these nonsense voters and change their vote. Thanks.
Greg, you want to jump in on that, or Ray? Comment on ghost voting?
Okay, two things I want to clarify. As someone who's worked as a professor of statistics and someone who's worked in the voting area a long time, lectured the world. Number one, 49 of 50 states don't have electronic voting. They have ballot marking devices which mark paper ballots. And so you don't have to worry about, there's lots of things you can do, but no one uses the push and pray anymore, except for the state of Louisiana. So 49 states, that's not an issue. Second, I know that Trump has talked about ghost voters and all this stuff, people that don't exist, et cetera. And we've been hunting for them. We can't find them. So, but if you do have names of ghost voters, give them to me and we'll go have them arrested, or we'll have them arrested, whoever put them on the voter rolls. I haven't found anything.
I'm happy to give you a list, Greg. I just ran a list this weekend of all of the people who had their first name was a single letter of the alphabet, and I can actually send you, there's about 32,000 that I found just from like 6 different states. That
And
does
how
not
many have been arrested of the 32,000?
Oh, no, that's the point. Well, I can tell you people who've been arrested. I mean,
And what cities are they in?
So are you familiar with the Pinellas County case in Florida?
Okay, the thing is, here's the thing. I know Trump keeps talking about the ghost voters, and they don't. This is nonsense. This is how we end up with purges, because people say, "Oh, look at how."
Yeah,
unless you have some really good, like, who is doing this and how are they doing this, and how have you seen the ballots, and have you seen the signatures? Have you seen the registration forms?
So here's the thing.
Have you seen the registration forms?
Jack Smith testified to this.
Jack Smith. Now there's a common name. So here's, and I know he's voted many.
The special prosecutor.
I know who you're saying, but I'm using this.
Let's not talk over each other.
I'm
We're
not
all
going to
on
do
the
this
same
because
side here.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't say this. I'm only going to talk about the issues on which I've said I will work. The issue for me right now is racial vote suppression. And if you find ghost voters, please let me know, and you send them to me.
Well, we're going to continue with this, so we'll come back. Greg and Allison are both going to be with us until the election, if not beyond, and we will return to this issue. So let's talk about ghost voters. It's an important thing, and it's also in progress. We got 60-some people with us, and we got Greg Palast, we got Ray MCCLENDON, ALISON GREENE, and this is terrifying stuff. I mean, I got a fundraiser today from the Democratic Party saying they want to raise who's the guy who does all the
Mark Elias.
Mark Elias. He says, "Hi, I'm Mark Elias. I got 2 issues to raise with you. They were really important, and they both had to do with sending him money." They never get specific about what they're going to do to protect the election. And I have to say, and Greg and Ray and whoever else can take issue with this, but when Bob and I were breaking the stories, and Bob Fitrakis is with us, by the way.
Oh, good.
It was all Bob's work, coached by Greg. All I did was take notes. But whenever we in Ohio 2004, and certainly after Florida 2000, whenever we would raise the issue of voting of dubious elections. Let's put it that way. The Republicans never attacked us. They didn't care what we said, but the Democrats attacked. Mark Elias always just made fun of us and attacked our work, and apparently he's doing it again today. So I don't know, Greg, what's your experience with Mark Elias and the Democratic Party in terms of dealing with your work?
Well, I would say the simple thing is don't expect a political party to save your vote, to save your democracy. We got to do it. So, we can bitch that the Democrats are not taking care of us, but we can't have to take care of ourselves.
I absolutely agree with that, and let me just say that even though a lot of this is based upon the merits of democracy and freedom and all of that, it at the core of this, it's Black people's rights and voting that's being trampled on, that's being gutted by the powers that be, and that is where the focus, I think, needs to remain. That we need to stay laser focused on a critical part of this country is being eliminated, is being eviscerated, whatever word, whatever term that you want or want to use, to turn back the clock 100 years. And when we start getting caught up in a lot of the machinations, that's fine for from the technical folk, but this is a strategic issue about the moral fiber of this country, and whether or not we're going to live up to the Constitution, as Dr. King said. We just want you to do what you wrote down on paper, and that's what this fight is all about. It's not about the mechanics. The mechanics are just the vehicle for them to deny the rights. The difference was in the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s. It was at the local level, in county seats, making Black voters come in and have to count beans in a jar,
Yeah.
or take literacy tests. And now it's more sophisticated in the way that it's being done. But we need to recognize what the real issue is here, and we're not doing that when we allow ourselves to get down into the morass of the mechanics of this. This is a direct assault on taking a whole group of people out of the electoral process, and rendering their ability to have a voice inoperable.
Ray, I couldn't agree more. And if I can, I mean, we actually have a solution that the mechanics actually brought to us. That means that we don't only have to prepare for election day, but we can help stop the purge in real time.
Yes.
Based on the data that we have. And so, for example, we want to make sure, I know that there are so many people who showed up and they were told that they couldn't vote because they were taken off the voter rolls. GREG PALAST and I believe personally, are on the same page. The voter rolls are part of the mechanics that are being used to purge Black and brown voters. And if we can actually create the mechanism to ensure that as they are taking people off the rolls, we are putting them back on the rolls in real time, we are absolutely what our group is doing is trying to ensure that as they are purging Black and brown voters, or white, but I do agree with you, the majority of them are Black and brown. We want to be able to put them back on the rolls in real time so that they don't show up and get ghosted from the system. So we have this phrase that we've been talking about, and Greg, I'm happy to send you, and I can send Ray, lists of ghost voters. Ghost voters are the fraudulent votes that are diluting the real votes. And then on top of that, the real votes are being deleted on the voter rolls of Black and brown people. And according to Bob Woodward, the malware and the mechanics are actually targeting Black residents to delete 1 in 10 of their voters. What I found was evidence in our county where there was Russian malware that 1 in 10 voters were being deleted. I just want to capture those deletes that are happening in real time and get them back on the rolls so that nobody has the unconstitutional issue of showing up to cast their ballot and being denied. I was in tears watching Greg's thing. I mean, people have fought and people are at war to ensure that everybody gets to vote. And if we have mechanics that is being kind of hidden because of a conspiracy to hide this information. I actually did put in the chat Jack Smith's transcript, and you can go to that transcript. He actually has testified on page 79 of that transcript that there is a means of getting rid of votes and finding votes. And getting rid of votes is ghosting real voters. We don't want to have any real voters, no matter what color they are, but most especially, I don't want Black and brown voters to be ghosted from our system and not have their ballots counted. So I think we're all talking about the same thing, but the mechanism helps us, come up with the solutions to save us, because it is up to us.
Well, thank you for that, Allison. Beautifully stated. Greg and Ray, do you want to talk to that? We're also joined by Wade Rathke, who has his own story about the assault of the FBI, and Anthony. We have another guest with us who's got things to say about great work he's doing between urban and rural towns. But go ahead, please, Greg and Ray.
I'll just say one thing, that the main point being made here is that we have to get to the millions, and let me repeat this, millions of voters who've been purged from the voter rolls through a challenge or through some of this whatever passes or gets by from the Doge demands, etc. We have to get people back on the rolls. And the number one way to get people back on the rolls, this is very successful in Georgia, is to contact the people and tell them to re-register. You can stop the vampire of vote purging of most, it's not every trick in the book, but the biggest one. And by simply telling people to check their damn registration 60 days before an election. Because the way to stop these guys is to re-register. And you think you're registered, you better check it, man. You're not. I mean, I was bounced off the rolls in California for some reason. I re-registered, and that was that. Re-register online, not on those pieces of paper. So that's the main thing. We got working Black Voters Matter. We sent out 80,000 postcards to purged voters. We had billboards with the Rosario Dawson. We did go to federal court. Some successes, mostly losses in the courts. There's not much you can do these days that way. And so it's about, and we had radio and media and ethnic press. And we got to tell people, that voting is a contact sport. You got to get in there and check your registration and make sure everyone checks their registration. And that in 22 states you can register, and they almost never tell you this, in 22 states you can register on election day. Always bring your ID, even in states where they say you don't have to. I believe me, you better. And that's a basic thing. Thank you.
And of course, we can expect a very well-funded wall of resistance against re-registration as we get close to election day. Ray McClendon, did you want to jump in on this? And we'll go to Wade Rathke. And Mike, we had another guest, and I don't see him on.
Yeah, Sonny, Anthony had to leave, but we'll try to book him again.
We'll get him next week, please. And everybody should know we're an hour and 10 minutes into this. And this is the life of our democracy, and this is going to be available, this kind of discussion, every week from now on going forward. And we hope we're honored with such great talent as Ray McClendon and Greg Palast and you, Allison, as we go forward. But this is obviously the life breath of our democracy. We also got Dave Saltman going to talk to us about the media a bit, and Tatanka Bricka about the new Spielberg film. But go ahead, please, Ray. Or did you want to say something again?
No.
Okay. Greg, you good?
Yeah, great work.
All right. Well, listen, let's introduce Wade Rathke. Wade,
Yes, hey, Wade.
I think you know a lot of the people on the call, and you're known. Tell us what the FBI did to you guys.
Well, I think what we're talking about is the attack on the Ohio Organizing Collaborative over the last week or so in Columbus and around there, based on what looks like nothing more than their straightforward voter registration campaign. Reading the reports, obviously I wasn't there. Sounds like more than 100 FBI agents tried to serve a subpoena, took records, have interviewed canvassers, tried to intimidate people on their doors, tried to ask people to give them their phones without any warrants, just, standard intimidation procedure.
You're saying 100 FBI agents?
I'm just reporting on what CBS News told me. I mean, obviously, once I got a message from Suzanne, I checked into more details, but the way CBS News report this, they said 125. I don't know if they were there counting heads. So I can't be responsible for that number, but it was the FBI and it was a bushel of them. It wasn't just one or two people walking through the door.
Well, now this comes in the wake of a while ago, the previous destruction of an organization called Acorn. And
Acorn, yeah.
And can you tell us about that and how this relates?
Well, I mean, for various cycles going up to 2008, for about 10 years, we ran very large voter registration programs. It was common procedure that the Republican National Committee would challenge us, whether it was in Ohio or Florida or Pennsylvania, in battleground states, and accuse us sometime within the first 3 weeks before a national election of voter fraud. It's actually voter registration fraud, if there were any. And they would pull forward somebody who claimed to have turned in fraudulent cards, etc. And in those periods before 2008 in the Obama campaign, by the time the election was held and then it was December or so, it would all disappear. This was just a political tactic, a chance to get press, to try to intimidate voters from coming in the polls. The difference in 2008, we registered and re-registered more than 1 million people with Acorn around the country. And there it was a more serious event because of the Obama campaign. So we had agents come in Las Vegas particularly, came in with the whole SWAT operation to try to allege that there had been a breach there in Nevada. They were less federal agents. This was a situation where we were mainly dealing with state police rather than the FBI at that point. And there was a unique law in Nevada where you could not pay canvassers by the registration, and we did not because that was the law. But the whole point was to try to see if we could get on national news, the police coming through, much like you see in this screenshot of the Ohio Capitol Journal. I mean, it is impossible to register 1 million people. We had a whole team of half dozen people in Little Rock, Arkansas that checked every single registration we turned in that year. But the law is such in every state that you don't get to legally decide as a nonprofit voter registration operation what registration forms to turn in to the local election bureau. So we were turning in stacks of tens and hundreds of voter registration files, and we would turn in. If somebody signed a card saying they were Donald Duck, or we had a set of cards, it was Troy Aikman, and the whole Dallas Cowboys team. We had to turn those in a separate stack, and we would tell the election commission, these are the ones that are bad, these are the ones that are good. It's freedom of information, though, so the Republicans were able to, in Missouri and several other states, ask to see exactly who we turned in and which stack. They then tried to argue that, yes, we had turned in fraudulent voter registration forms. Well, yeah, we did. We did turn in fraudulent voter registration forms, and we identified it for the fools. You know, we said, hey, this is the bad stack. Hey, this is the good stack. But the point of intimidating voters and the point of, attacking an organization like Acorn or whatever is to retard the level of voters that are coming to the polls, so that you think if you don't have everything, dotted on the I's, crossed on the T's and whatever, especially if you're a new registrant, and all research and statistics by external political scientists have established that new registrants are more likely to vote than old registrants. So it is very important to try to dissuade old registrants. The long and short of it is they were trying to discredit Acorn, particularly because we were at that point the largest group. We had the largest number of new registrants coming in through the program we ran. They were hoping that the margin between Obama and his opponent, senator from Arizona, would be so narrow that they would be able to allege that there was voter registration fraud or voter fraud or whatever. And as I'm sure Greg has mentioned, or Allison or whatever, I mean, they make no distinction between voter registration fraud and voter fraud. To them, it's all one big pile of crap that's called voter fraud. Well, the real truth is voter fraud would be someone who is fraudulently voting. Voter registration fraud that we were finding, if somebody signed somebody else's name or signed that they were Mickey Mouse or whatever it was, that's voter registration, a voter registration problem, but it would only have been, I mean, the joke I used to tell for years was, everyone knows Donald Duck can only vote in Orlando. He can't vote in Las Vegas. So, it was only fraud if Donald Duck voted in Las Vegas. Not fraud, I mean, if he had voted correctly. But the point was that this was about trying to intimidate voters. And certainly, if Greg and I have talked about voter purges in the past, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. But this was an attempt now, it seems, to dissuade the Ohio group. Many groups since the attack on Acorn in 2008 and 9 don't do voter registration anymore, because you can't do perfect voter registration. If you're going to do mass registration, whether it's 10,000 or 1,000,000, even with all the, stuff we did, somebody is going to not register correctly, and you're going to turn in some forms that were not, properly filled out, and you're going to have some Republicans and some conservatives claim that that's voter fraud. So many groups left the field, which was tragic. I mean, the number of nonprofits that don't do voter registration anymore is huge. Good on the Ohio Organizing Collaborative. I was fortunate over the last 20 years to have done some training for their staff back in the Kirk Noden days. So it's been a solid group, but they're paying the price, and it's good to see that they're getting support from people in Ohio against this attack.
Well, the attack on Acorn essentially destroyed the organization. Is that correct?
Well, it was a combination of things, but the more serious problem was when a James O'Keefe, a fraudulent pretend journalist filmmaker, edited in unscrupulous and unethical ways a bunch of videos trying to claim that we know from the record, he went into 12, 13 different housing counseling operations that we ran, and did 5 sets of broadcast on Fox News claiming that in Baltimore or someplace that an Acorn housing counselor had suggested she'd help him get a house for some sort of, El Salvadorian horrors or whatever. I mean, I gotta tell you the truth. I've been in this business. I've been an organizer for more than 50 years. I've never watched a single of the videos. So I only know what I've read in the paper, but I do know the facts were that all of that's been discredited. Keefe had to pay $50,000 for an accusation in National City, south of San Diego. And although the New York Times and others just sucked it down as if it was all, verifiable truth, they've all had to retract and, back off of those statements. But the damage was done. Because basically, once, Obama threw us under the bus, said if that happened, that was a problem. And then allies, funders, or whatever, there was a resolution in the House of Representatives to defund Acorn. Well, Acorn wasn't getting any money from the federal government. This was a Acorn Housing Corporation problem, but, they made a decision. I had left to do the international work with Acorn, and I still do.
Well,
In 2008.
does Acorn exist?
Acorn now has some 300,000 members in 15 different countries, including a project right now in Cleveland, which has a new group having a first meeting in the third week of June.
Well, post the
So, yeah.
link. We want to have people from Acorn back on these gatherings. That's the first. I knew a lot about Acorn when they were knocked out in 2000. I didn't know they were back in the field. That's good news. So,
Well, I mean,
and that Greg and Ray are both connected to all these groups, and we got to build this network with Allison here. I'm thrilled to hear that Acorn is back. So,
I mean, Greg and I have talked before. We have an Acorn Voter Purge project that we've supported for a number of years over the last 6 or 7 years. And, it's a rebuilding. It's Acorn is certainly, don't misunderstand me. We're not what we were in 2010 when the organization sort of.
Neither am I. I mean, what the hell,
I don't even want to go there. I mean, my daughter reminds me every day, don't tell people you had red hair, Wade. Well, good point. The problem about having red hair is you think you've always got it, and you don't necessarily have it, as you can see.
It's a red herring as an issue. So listen, but listen, Wade, you got to keep coming back. Ray, we've had on many, many times. Greg, Allison, this is what we're going to be doing going forward. And so I have post Acorn's contacts in the chat. We've got 67 people with us. We got to rock and roll here. This is really important. Mike Hersh?
Can I add something here? Number one, when I was with BBC Television, we were the only network, and we ran internationally, that exposed the attack on Acorn as organized by Tim Griffin in Little Rock, he was just recently lieutenant governor in Arkansas, and who was the assistant to Karl Rove, who was the mastermind behind this whole thing. This is confirmed by U.S. prosecutor, Republican David Iglesias, who was fired because he would not participate in the GOP conspiracy to force prosecutors to charge people with illegal voting so they could begin this campaign of purging voter rolls. But we covered that. We could not get the U.S. press ran with this O'Keefe thing, hook, line, and sinker. And, it was so, Wade, I'm glad you're back in the field. I knew that you were still there, but maybe we can talk about a program where we focus to the purges and re-registering people, which is they haven't totally figured out how to stop people from running re-registration campaigns, but it is terrifying. They've knocked the legal women voters in some states simply won't touch voter registration drives anymore. Their liability is just too big.
Florida, for example, the league won't register now because of the draconian rules there. But just to clarify, the attack on U.S. attorneys that led to a resignation of a number of them was during the Bush regime. The Attorney General under Bush had tried to get to prosecute Acorn for voter registration problems in a number of states, New Mexico and others. And that's exactly the story you're telling from the BBC, but it came to nothing. But at the same time, that was not in the 2008 cycle. That was that was George W. All I'm saying, and you're saying, is this has been old tactics with new targets. I mean, as long as we keep trying to put people to protect democracy and have people register and actually vote, it's going to be a fight.
Well, let's
Wade, hold on, Sonny.
Oh yeah,
You
Mike.
called
Mike
on me.
Hirsch, go ahead.
Yeah. I live in Maryland, and the Baltimore Acorn story was a local story, so that was on our local news. And we saw O'Keefe dressed up. MYLA said it best. He was dressed up like a Halloween pimp, trying to implicate Acorn, and he rolled in with these dubious stories, and they all told him get lost. They called the cops on him, but he hacked and slashed the videos to make it look like they were up to no good, and that's all he did. He is a very questionable person. He was arrested for trying to wiretap a U.S. senator because he thought that she was up to no good. He was questioned for taking a young woman out on a boat and trying to force himself on her, allegedly. And the sordid career of James O'Keefe, who's a complete whack job, not that there's anything wrong with being a whack job, but he was an evil whack job. He got bounced from Project Veritas, which is the most Orwellian named organization, since all they did was lie. He got bounced because he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on these elaborate song and dance numbers. So it was a frustrated Broadway musical actor, but all he was a shady actor. And he also tried to bring down Planned Parenthood and other organizations that are just trying to do the public good. And good riddance to him, but he did immeasurable harm to Acorn.
Well, let's have thank you, Mike, for that. And let's have a dedicated hour in 2 weeks to just to voter registration. We've got to go through this whole McGilla of the things we got to look for in the coming election. And this is a huge one, obviously. I mean, we got to deal with the issue on voter registration of what they're doing to women's names, women who have married names that don't match their birth certificate. And
Allison had her hand up. Do you want to get close up here? Or
oh yeah, no, go ahead. Who else?
Allison?
Allison, yeah, go ahead, please.
Wade, I guess my question too, I kind of see it possibly as a badge of honor because there seems to be a misdirection. And you mentioned in your talk that it almost seems as though what you were describing was they're looking for the organizations that are trying to do good and kind of blocking them or going after them as they did with the recent Ohio raid. But that doesn't mean that there's not organizations out there who are not doing good. Is that, would you agree with that? Like, I mean, are you familiar with the Michigan case in 2020 with the 8,000 to 10,000 fraudulent vote? And it sounds as though you were doing the right thing. You were trying to say, here's Troy Aikman and here's Donald Duck and here are these guys. Well, Muskegon, Michigan, they found 8,000 to 10,000 of these fraudulent voter registrations from an organization that it's still with the FBI, supposedly. It's never been indicted. There's a 60-page police report, and the name of the organization has been redacted. So, it's still possible that there are organizations, but maybe you're a misdirection.
Yeah.
And maybe
so
Ohio is.
what Allison's working on, and Greg, when you find ghost voters in rolls, Allison, you're doing it because they're being used to get rid of the legitimate votes.
Correct.
So
Dilute
those ghost voters and make them vote and then add them, when you have a county in Florida that's got 6 million voters in it that doesn't exist in Florida. There's no Burke County, Florida. 5 other states this happened in. And where are they getting those 6 million voters from? The ghost voter rolls. Allison, tracked 1 out of every 10 voters was being added or removed depending on what party you're on. So if you're a Republican, you got plus 1.1%. And then she watched it on a regular basis, and this was going on and on and on. And who were these voters that were at it? Oh, well, people who went to the polls, she asked the county clerk, and they had to get back on the rolls because they got deleted.
Yeah.
Right.
And they
But
couldn't get back on. And so, there are cases out there. They talk about the fact that there is no voter registration fraud, but the reality is that I can name 4 different cases, 2 of them that were brought by the DOJ, where they found hundreds of fraudulent voter registrations being added to the rolls. In Pinellas County, Florida, it was a Russian national and it was an Uzbek national who added 132 fraudulent voters. So how do I know that Foster Haugen in Pinellas County is actually not a real person? Because he was indicted by the DOJ. And once the DOJ changed hands and Pam Bondi was in charge, they let those people off. So it's not that there's not voter registration, it's that I kind of feel as though I don't know the history completely of Acorn, but my guess is if Todd Blanche is going, after Ohio, I don't know that there's anything to see there, but there may be something to see somewhere else, and they're trying to distract.
believe me, in Ohio, there'll be lots to see,
Mhm.
as we know all too well. I mean, Ohio is just
And they distract from that.
right. So let's take this particular piece of it up in 2 weeks. Wade and Ray McClendon, if you can come back with us, we'll deal with some other aspects, but this is our agenda for the next until we either have a democracy or don't after November of 2026. Thank you, Wade, for joining us. Greg Palast, really great to have you. Greg, if you're going to stay, we're going to do a media discussion with Dave Saltman here. And then Ray McClendon, it's always great to see you. We want to talk also about, I got a fundraiser that we'll do this later after our meet next week, but I got a fundraiser from Tallarico, the guy running for Senate in Texas, asking me to donate so he can buy a TV ad on the World Cup. And I was not happy with this because I sent them back. I don't know if I got through that. I'm not giving any money for TV ads, but I will give for in a nonpartisan mindset for grassroots organizing. And the question is, these headliners, Ossoff, all these people are the guy in Maine, people who are gathering around to support the money that goes into these campaigns. Is it all going to media buys, or are these guys following the example of Georgia 2020 when the money went to grassroots organizing? So Ray McClendon, especially if you'll join us in future discussions on that, we'd really appreciate it. Greg Palast, thank you so much for coming. I'm sorry we missed your visage there, but hopefully you'll get your internet fixed, and we'll talk again soon. Ray McClendon, Wade Rathke, really great to meet you, and we hope you'll come back. Alison Green, keep sticking with us, please. Okay. All right, everybody. We still got 59 people with us. As promised, we're going to have two discussions. First on the media, and then on the whole issue raised by Steven Spielberg's movie, which grossed, I think, almost $90 million in its first weekend in theaters. I may be wrong about that. So we'll come to that with Tatanka Bricka. But Dave Saltman, you with us, David? There you are. Let's unmute you. There you go. Can you give us, you know a lot of people still in the business from your long career in many networks. Um, can you tell us the latest from CBS? I mean, it sounds like it's total turmoil. I got an email today claiming that who's the guy who just got thrown out of CBS, that he's going to be joining Rachel Maddow at MS Now. Have you heard anything like that?
Is that, you mean Scott Pelley?
Scott Pelley. Yeah.
I did not hear that. That's good.
Well, I don't know if it's true. I mean, it could be fake news, you know.
It could be. I'll try and track it down. I have not. I didn't hear that at all. And I've been looking at MS Now is now part of a new company called Versant, which is worth watching. It's a spin-off from Comcast, which was the Rogers family company that used to own all the NBC. They changed so fast; it's hard to keep track. But this new company Versant includes MS Now, which used to be called MSNBC, and it also includes CNBC, the business channel, which is a very solid and profitable entity. Yeah, that's it, Versant. And it just started trading as a stock a couple of weeks ago. Like I say, it was a spinoff. Do they say anything in this about Pelley? I mean, it would, if it's true.
No, it would be big news. It would be all over the media if it was true. So
yeah, you would think. And it's got a bunch of other channels. So it's an interesting company. Yeah, I don't see anything there. But let me just backtrack and to connect the media question with what you've just been talking about, which is so troubling. I mean, it's always been troubling, but now to hear that there are millions of names that have been, scrubbed off the voter rolls, just give me your, and this is obviously requires a lot of thought, but is it possible that because it used to be like, oh, there's no voter fraud, it's very small, etc. But now we're saying it's a massive issue. Is it possible that somehow the courts could rule, whose courts could rule that, oops, the voting thing is a disaster. We've got to completely reform the voting system, and we're going to temporarily stop voting because who can trust these votes anymore until we figure it out? That's a terrible.
We're already hearing that from Trump.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I mean, Trump is basically arguing already. And I just saw a piece, by the way, by Matt Taibbi, who used to be whatever and is now something else.
That was a friend of mine back in the day, I gotta say.
Yeah, and his parents. So he put out a piece that says the headline was American elections are a joke. And the theme is, to discredit the idea that we can have decent elections. And we all know where that leads, which is, if you can have a decent election, you got to leave the guy in charge who's in charge. And that's what we're going to be hearing. The problem we have, and it's partly a media problem, is that you've got a guy with $1 trillion and a lot of guys like with his buddies with hundreds of billions of dollars who will do everything they can to subvert the election. And one of the things they'll do.
But they've already done it. Yeah, it's already happened.
Yes, it happened. Well, there's a big argument that's not being made, which nobody has really looked in the media to the 24 election. Because, Kamala Harris just walked out the door and now it's talking about running again. Give me a break. Because they did not deal, and Mark Elias has never dealt with the realities of election theft. And now the media hasn't. Now, in this particular section, you basically, and you were there, CBS appears to be a goner. I mean, there doesn't seem to be much left of credibility.
So just to answer your question as best as I can, and nobody really knows where this is going, but apparently Leslie Stahl and a couple of the remaining two correspondents from 60 Minutes have been assured by young Ellison, David Ellison, that he won't interfere, they won't be interfered with. So they're going to try to sort of save 60 Minutes. So many people are out on the street already because nobody knows what to believe anymore. It's impossible to say. The place is a disaster. Guys like the O'Keefe story is a perfect example of what's happened to the networks. It used to be that the networks wouldn't touch material that came from outside like that for exactly this reason. You don't know where it's been. You don't know who put whom up to it. O'Keefe, by the way, he's from a family of, as I understand it, a family of, I'm going to call them alleged con men. There's more. It's not just him. Okay. Anyway, so.
Well, Mike Hersh has a hand. Mike, did you want to jump in with David here?
Yeah, David, thank you so much. Your perspective is so valuable because you've been with these people, you've worked with them, you know how they think, you know what's going on. My concern, obviously 60 Minutes is a crown jewel and it's a tragedy to see what's happening there. But I just want to call everybody's attention. There was recently the Justice Department, which is another oxymoron, the Trump Justice Department, approved another mega merger. And I think it's the same Ellison crew. They're now going to own CNN, HBO, which has a lot of documentary and
Right.
news comedy type reporting.
That's right.
It's all coming under the thumb of an extremist billionaire family with very close ties to Trump and very close ties to these data centers, AI, and a whole bunch of other things that most people don't want. But if they buy up all the media, what we'll hear is, yeah, you do want it. And unfortunately, a lot of people believe what they see on TV. Your comment, Salty.
You're absolutely right, Mike. And that was the problem with O'Keefe. Well, I saw the pictures. They believed him, even though it was obviously stupid and ridiculous. And a lot of times you get these, and it happens in all kinds of stories. And it even happened before these mergers. But I've forgotten the exact conditions, but when Dan
Well,
Rather,
the New York Times ran a series on this poor kid that was addicted to crack or something. Turned out, the person I think won a Pulitzer. Turned out it was all fiction.
it happens.
And Judith Miller lied us into the Iraq War. And
Right.
her editors at the New York Times said, well, we were afraid of her. Well,
That's
I
right.
mean, who's afraid of Judith Miller?
Even the New York Times. You're absolutely right. And the New York Times, for all of its, and in full disclosure, I wrote for the New York Times for more than 15 years. So I have it pains me greatly to say this, but they've got a lot to answer for, especially in the current incarnation. There used to be stricter rules. And I was looking into the history of this, which is going to what Harvey Wasserman asked me to look into for this segment was, is there another way to do this? Are there other ways of essentially financing the media? Because at the end of the day, financing turns out to be, if not the central problem, certainly one of the big ones, just because to cover the news of the world is a massive undertaking and requires a billionaire with vision, of whom there aren't that many. But Ted Turner is a good example of one, and William Paley is another example of one. And maybe I didn't know, I'm not real up to speed on the history of the Sarnoff family. They were behind RCA and NBC. but maybe that's another one. But there are some interesting ideas out there. So I made a little list here. We've first of all, I call him Was. I can't help it.
It's all right. It's okay.
I've called the guy Was for 60 years. Was asked me, he said, what's the future of the media? And I'm here to tell you, the media are definitely going to survive. That's not a question, because the media have been around as long as civilization itself.
Well, at least since Gutenberg.
Oh, and before Gutenberg. I'm talking about at least since the Epic of Gilgamesh in ancient Babylon.
Right.
The Greek theater. I mean, the media, Aristotle's Poetics, which were written more than 1,000 years ago, they still hold water. They still are the standard by which you judge like comedy performances and so on. So the media are going to survive. The question is democracy going to survive? That's a different question entirely, because democracy, it doesn't just need the media, it needs journalism. And if you think about the history of democracy as a political entity, it really didn't exist until you had things like the telegraph, the Reuters system, the French Revolution and the American Revolution. Thomas Paine, one of the vital journalism of a sort, was crucial to the establishment of democracy as a thing. I'm sure that everyone on this call agrees with me and Winston Churchill in this case, who said, democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the other forms.
That's right.
It's really true. And it's because of journalism that you have democracy at all. So how do you finance journalism and keep democracy? Well, one way that we've talked about before is the method of ProPublica, which I have advocated. In my vision, ProPublica is as good as it gets these days. Their accuracy is really good. They really know what they're doing. The editor of, Mark Cuban's, John, I'm seeing on the here, what about Mark Cuban to approach? Yeah, he might be just the kind of eccentric billionaire that we want. And what would we ask Mark Cuban to do? That's the question. Mark Cuban would be able to at least start something like ProPublica and be able to finance it, and would have to be prepared probably to lose money, because I don't think ProPublica is making money in any way. It exists on donations and grants and foundation in the public interest. The issue of the public interest is something that we don't hear anymore. But back in the days when the networks were starting, the concept of the public interest was crucially important. Walter Lippmann, the famous Washington journalist, wrote a column called The Public Interest. And here's at least in my understanding, it was the important element of bringing news to the networks was because they were in basically a sleazy, tawdry entertainment type of business. The inclusion of news proved that not only did they have the public interest at heart, but it gave them the right to use the media, meaning the public airwaves, which belong to the people, by presenting the news in the public interest without having it be a profit center for the networks. That gave the networks the right to profit from comedy and drama. And by the way, let me remind you that back in the early days of the networks, NBC and CBS, they had their in-house symphony orchestras. They used to play live live classical music performances on Sunday afternoon. You don't see that anymore. You don't even get that on the former New York Times radio channel anymore. So the concept of the public interest meant also for the networks themselves, the news divisions did not have to make money and were not expected to make money. They were considered WAS was in the uniform business at one time. Did you have in your uniform business a loss leader?
Yeah, we had a lot of lost leaders. I also put classical music on our answering machine. It did not go over well. But so the question now, Salty, is where do we go from here?
Well,
I
let
mean,
me review a couple of other ideas and then let's discuss that. So ProPublica with grants and foundations is one financing possibility that somebody like Mark Cuban would be ideal. What happened back in the early days of the development of the American media? What really happened that was really important was organization in labor unions. The newspaper guild, which was the first labor union for journalists, was started by Haywood Broun. You know the name Haywood Broun?
yeah.
Broun was a member of the Algonquin Round Table. He was a contemporary of Dorothy Parker and Robert Benchley and George S. Kaufman. Back in the heyday of the American media, when the New Yorker started, he was there. And he started as a sports writer and became a very well-known journalist. And his son, Haywood Hale Broun, was a reporter at Sunday Morning on CBS. I used to work with him. We did a series called the Ghosts of Broadway, where we talked about these ancient times. Anyway, the unions, the American Newspaper Guild, still exists. It's now been subsumed into the CWA, the Communication Workers of America, and they've also subsumed another one of the broadcasting unions called NABET, National Association of Broadcast Employees and Technicians. I'm a member of all these unions, by the way. The problem with the unionization of the media has been that there are too many unions, and because of that, each individual one has very little power. Well,
do you think, David? And by the way, we're going to get to Tatanka Bricka at the top of the hour from 7 to 7:20 to talk about Spielberg's movie. And I hope you'll stay with us, David, and everybody else. But the question then, well, if these unions still exist, could they be brought into an alternative media network?
I think that's a possibility. Maybe it's time for a new media union entirely. Like I say, the problem with the unions, the showbiz unions, is there's too many of them. There's the IA, there's the IB, there's the Writers Guild, there's the Directors Guild, there's a Producers Guild, there's AFTRA, there's SAG, there's and I've been involved in a couple of strikes. I'm a member of the Writers Guild, among other things. And the Writers Guild's been on strike in my career 3 times, and I've been on a couple of and the strikes were very ugly. And one of the reasons they were ugly is because the other unions did not show solidarity with the striking union. And the only time that those union strikes had any impact at all, there were 2 times. One when AFTRA went on strike, and that's when Walter Cronkite was replaced by a guy who had been like in the accounting department, who was delivering the evening news. And the other time was when the Teamsters got involved, because every one of the networks had a unit that was represented by the Teamsters. And in certain conditions, the Teamsters wouldn't cross the picket line, and that suddenly would end the strike. So think about it.
Do you think the Teamsters would ever support the foundation of an independent, labor-based media network, maybe through the internet?
If trucks were driving something to and from the place. Damn right they would. Yeah. I
And
don't
what
know.
about Democracy Now? Well, we got two really great pieces of TV based or video based reportage, Tom Hartman and Amy Goodman.
I don't
Where
call
did
that
we take?
reportage though. They don't. That is. They don't go out. I'm not. I mean, I know who they are, and I have to say, I'm not a big student of. But as far and correct me if I'm wrong here, but as far as I know, they don't send reporters out to do stories. They report the news as it comes in. That's not the same. But let me just go over two other methods that I think have not had any kind of consideration. Number one, you're all familiar with the Bloomberg news organization, of course.
Yeah.
You know
Yes.
that there's Bloomberg Television, there's Bloomberg Radio, and so on and so on. What you probably don't know, or you may not know, and if you do, let's talk about it. They don't they're not considered profit centers of the Bloomberg LP, Bloomberg Inc. There's only one profit center at Bloomberg. So what I'm saying is the news division is not expected to make money. The television network, even though it's a television network, is not expected to make money. And therefore, they can have 800 correspondents worldwide, and they can finance them because there's only one, I'm going to call it, client at Bloomberg, and that's the Bloomberg terminal. It's all about leasing that terminal, which you can't be you can't be on Wall Street unless you're paying, I think the fee is $144,000 a month for a Bloomberg terminal. You've got to have one. It's the tennis racket of the business, You can't live without it. So that's an interesting idea, and I'm wondering if there might be an alliance between a new age or new idea media network and Bloomberg itself.
Well,
Bloomberg.
we talked about that. You and I talked earlier about starting an environmental network.
That's right.
And you suggested that we sign up Bloomberg. And in our most recent discussion, I'm going to call on Dorothy Reich, and then we're going to have to come back to this, David. I mean, it's fascinating. And then Tatanka is going to take us in outer space.
And well, let me raise one last idea.
Okay, and then we'll get Dorothy, and then we'll move on.
You may have heard that the PBS station in New Jersey has just moved to Montclair. And also at Montclair State College, is a television unit, a media unit that has just won first prize in this national competition. And it's run by a good friend of mine, Steve McCarthy, who is a former 60 Minutes producer. And they do a really good job. And it's all right there. And I'm thinking that there might be an alliance similar to the NCAA in sports of universities and journalism students and broadcasting students nationwide who either getting scholarship credit or scholarships or some kind of payment would be required, but it wouldn't have to be $1 million media salaries, but there might be some way of creating a network similar to the NCAA with journalists.
Well, that's a great one. We're going to have to come back to that. I will point out, since you jumped into sports, that Montclair was the hometown and later in his career of Yogi Berra, who is my favorite all-time baseball player. So one of them. Anyway, Dave Saltman, this is astounding. We still got what do we got? Over 50 people, and these are all ideas that we got to develop this. So I hope you'll keep coming back because this has to this has to happen. We have to have an alternative network, and there's so much talent out there.
Yeah.
And somewhere is the money, and it would be a fraction of the cost to start a new network on the internet based on the internet. So All right, brother. Great to have you, Dave. Wait. Stay with Dorothy Reich, and then we're going to go to Tatanka. Dorothy Reich, go ahead.
I just wanted to put in a word for Amy Goodman. She does do her own investigative reporting. She mostly on the ground. I mean, she started almost getting killed in Indonesia. She was covering revolution there that wasn't covered by anybody else. She was just recently, a couple of years ago, out on the Indian protest. I'm so embarrassed I don't remember the name of it, but she got
Was it Standing Rock?
Standing Rock, right? And if there are any demonstrations up in New York, she's certainly there in person. But I think if you haven't seen her movie yet, Steal This Story, Please, it's about stories she has covered herself and she wishes somebody else would cover them. That's why she calls it Steal This Story, Please. She's an incredible investigative reporter. She's not ProPublica, but she's over the decades.
She's Democracy Now!
Good.
Absolutely. Well, this is another theme we're going to continue here. Dave, you're a tremendous resource, and
Dave.
and there you go. And so let's keep doing this. And now we have another tremendous resource, Tatanka Bricka.
My first question is for David.
Oh, go for it, Dave. Tatanka,
Yeah,
please.
I love what you're talking about, Dave. And when you got into the NCAA, let's talk. We don't have to talk now, but there are media people, high salary media people who know a lot of high salary media people who are interested in this very idea.
Ah,
Yeah. So we should get sports people involved with, and Cuban's a sports guy too, but there's a lot of interact between especially people of color in the NBA, people of color in NFL. There's a lot of political consciousness there and a fair amount of money.
that's really interesting. You'll be interested to know that when CNBC first began, football was their model. I know because I was involved in those discussions. There was a brief shining moment when I was going to be the head of CNBC. Never happened, but it's the story of my life, right?
And when you were talking about the history of journalism and TV journalism in the U.S., you probably knew Stanhope Gould, right?
So,
Stan Gould.
Stan Gould, yeah.
Yeah, produced Cronkite.
Yeah.
Anyway, very good friend of the family.
Well,
Anyway.
Solomon, you and I, dating back to Michigan, I remember you were a great point guard. So let's make that happen. You'll never be a center, or a power forward, but point guard you'd be at. Well, look, Dave, we're offering you the leadership of a new network, since you never got a chance to run CBS. And
if I can do it from here, I'll be happy to do it.
Best possible location. So let's move ahead. We're only going to go to 7:20, at least 17 minutes. We want to talk to Tatanka Bricka about Spielberg's new movie, which grossed over $90 million in theaters this past weekend. I mean, just mind-boggling. Tatanka, tell us, please.
Well, yes, Steve Spielberg has made a great movie. Everybody go out and see it. I don't want to talk about it. Just say he focuses on the government trying to prevent the release of the biggest secret in America, the one that has the highest security clearance of all in the United States of America, which is the UFO ET situation. And it combines that with an amazing human story about the capacities that we humans have, and that many ETs demonstrate. It's an engaging story. So I've always admired Steve. He's dogged about the truth, and he cares about humans, and he has a curiosity about the universe. And so go and see it. And then I put in the chat, beginning last Sunday, just a couple days ago, and then going for the next 3 Sundays, Danny Sheehan and Sarah Nelson of the Romero Institute, the Lakota People's Law Project, most recently the New Paradigm Institute, and you can find this on newparadigminstitute.org. I put in the chat just a segment of a thing that you can get. Beginning Sunday, June 14th, I'll host a free 4-part Zoom series for 4 consecutive Sundays, examining the deeper significance of Spielberg's film, what it may reveal about the cultural, political, and spiritual implications of disclosure. These live sessions will go beyond a typical movie discussion. He does it Q&A. I'll place the film within a larger historical context of government secrecy, public disclosure efforts, non-human intelligence, and humanity's emerging place in a larger cosmic community. And there's a blue thing that I just put in the chat called Register Here. In closing, I invite you to always watch my latest Full Disclosure podcast episode, which I address current topics and transparency. Work together, we create the future. Danny Sheehan, President, Chief Counsel, the New Paradigm Institute. There's
Well,
a
we're going to hope
larger
to have Danny
discussion.
on. We'll hope to have Danny on this one at some point. And
Yeah.
you put the link to that in the chat there, Doug?
All that I read is in the chat. And click on the register here. And I would advise, I mean, you can go on without having seen the movie, but it's really good if you've already seen the movie. Okay. I don't want to tell you anything about it. It's a thriller. You'll enjoy it. A little over 2 hours. And it's playing in only movie theaters for the next, I don't know how many weeks, all over the world. And yes, it had a large grossing day, and now it's being shown in basically every major city and a lot of non-major cities throughout the world. So it's going to have an impact on this whole issue. And what Danny, Sarah have been dedicated to this issue, and the reason why they're dedicated is has profound social and political implications for all of us. Most people don't know, and I've worked closely with Danny now for 15 years, and especially the last 6 years on a weekly basis, creating a progressive government in waiting document, which is just about ready to go into print for the 2026 and 2028 election, which is what Danny's idea 6 years ago. He says, the way things are going, we're going to need it. There will be a shakedown. We'll, probably it'll be a choice about fascism and democracy, and we're going to need solutions, a solutions-oriented approach to the government. So this is for every cabinet position, agency position in the government. Most people don't know that his private hobby for the last 50 years, and this is since 50 years, since 1976, going back to the Carter administration, he's been the only constitutional attorney there for Air Force and Navy pilots when they were losing their pensions, losing their reputations, and some of them losing their lives, not even for whistleblowing, but for simply insisting that they be able to report to the Pentagon their experiences, firsthand experiences on UFOs and ETs, and just not being told they're crazy. They're always told you, okay, if we tell you this, you have to promise not to speak about this for the rest of your lives. And if you do, there will be consequences. So it started with that. And so, and then the last 10 years, he represented Luis Elizondo when he thought he was the top guy in the Pentagon that they Navy and Air Force pilots were reporting to, until he found out he was prevented from doing his job and found out there was another level above him. Anyway, he found his way to Danny, and this resulted in a Biden executive order. Most people don't know, for the last 4 years, it has been a U.S. law that every department of the military, all 6 divisions, plus the intelligence community, plus the Pentagon, plus private military contractors, under law, have to report everything they know about UFOs and ETs since January 1st of 1945. The bill he wrote, the executive order that Biden signed, which was rescinded by Trump, had enforcement mechanisms, a way of vetting a civilian review board that would vet the information, and the power of the Congress to use RICO to get the information from the U.S. government when they would be unwilling, predictably, to bring it out. Those were prevented from happening by Trump when there was a complete unanimity among Republicans and Democrats coming out of the Senate Intelligence Committee of a bill that would ensure that, a bill that Danny wrote, and was prevented when Trump called up and 5 Republican congresspeople and 2 senators, all representing either Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where they take all the beings and the craft when they're downed by the U.S. government. It's going on all over the world. It's a global situation. And the Lockheed facility in southern Alabama, both places where they're reverse engineering it and weaponizing it. So profound implications to find out that since the Eisenhower era, at the latest, we've had free energy. We've also had free energy from Tesla style discoveries of Americans that have been seized by the patent office, because the CIA sits right inside the patent office and either takes them away and gives them to aerospace, or essentially steals the discoveries of U.S. citizens. So that's part of the secrets file that Danny is involved in, that involves Epstein and UFO and JFK and 9/11. And Danny's been involved for the last 10 years working with everyone in government on this issue. The only thing they can all agree on, everybody wants to get the secrets out. And he is the only one that goes when the senators want to know information that is above the classification, that even the people in the military that have come out, they can't speak to it. So they go into something called a SCIF, which has a place where people can talk without anybody knowing about it. And everyone signs an NDA. Everyone has to, and it's a top secret, which means if you talk about it, you forfeit your life. You can have your life taken. The only one who never signs an agreement is Danny, because he's a public interest attorney. So he's,
All right, we're going to look at him, and hopefully Danny and Sarah Nelson broke the Karen Silkwood case and the Iran-Contra case. So they've got a history here.
The Christic Institute and then the Romero Institute.
Yeah.
Yes.
MYLA RESON, we got 9 minutes left.
So I saw Disclosure Day last night. I thought it was great. I think people should go see it. And I have to tell you, Tatanka, I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled and could not find what you did post in the chat. And I'm wondering if you can post it again, because it got buried by, many, many, many other posts over the last hour or so.
I can see it. I can see it in the chat here. Maybe it. I don't know.
Well, just go ahead and do it again.
Okay.
You can do it in the chat for everyone. And one more thing, I wanted to say that years ago, a close friend of mine's father was in the Air Force, retired, and he used to talk to us about the fact that he had seen strange things when he was flying, and that he knew plenty of other pilots who also thought that we were not alone, and that they had seen objects flying, UFOs or whatever, but he was quite convinced that they were not from this world. And he didn't talk about the suppression of that information, but he certainly convinced me that he wasn't making it up. I really believed what he was saying.
Jimmy Carter, there are a lot of people have the former governor of Ohio, Gilligan. My theory is that there's increasing ETF action here, because there is a galactic-wide police force, and they've been hearing about Trump, and they're coming here to decide whether our species deserves to survive. So that's another theory. Tatanka, we really appreciate your service on this, and I will, but it's only in theaters, right? It's amazing that they netted $92 million. That's a really big box office. So
my chat's really interesting. My chat is simply frozen. I put it in, I see it, and I can't even put anything in the chat now. So
yeah,
I'll get it. I'll get it to Mike. I'll get it to you. Pardon me.
Can you tell me what the URL? Can you spell out quickly? Maybe I can type it in, or
register here. Okay. Let me see if I can copy
all right,
this.
well,
I'll type it. It's http://click.everyaction.com/K /13300.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right.
You got it?
That's not going to work.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah,
anyway,
it's kind of like
that's
All right, we'll get it
that's
around.
the link. That's the link.
We'll
yeah.
keep talking about this next week. We'll revisit it. Those of you who are ETs, if you let us know what planet you've come from, we really appreciate it. And I always thought that Ross Perot was an ET, but you never know. I have read a couple of reviews and of the film, and they're saying that he's way more serious now than he was with the original E.T. movie, which was, kind of light and frothy. This one is being described as dark and serious. Would you agree with that, Tatanka?
The trailers were misleading. I felt it was really uplifting movie. It starts with the notion of empathy and it ends with the notion of listen. And in between, you follow this woman newscaster and a man and their journeys and a lot of other characters and supposedly, the evil guy who's chasing them from the corporation called uh
Tesla,
pardon me?
Tesla, SpaceX.
No, anyway, it's got a great it's got a great name. It's got a Trumpian sounding name. So anyway, it's a
All
thriller.
right.
It's a thriller.
I'm looking forward to it. We got two hands and then we're going to go. Mike Hirsch and Steve.
Yeah, I
Mike,
just want to remind you, Sonny, that I think you referenced Spielberg also made Close Encounters, which
Close
was a very
Encounters.
serious
Yeah,
movie.
right.
E.T. was a children's movie. It was delightful,
Yeah, it
but you're
was.
right. It was
They're both great. They're really
and then
both
there was
great.
also the movie Contact, which was based on that movie. Oh God, I can't remember the
Jodie
astronomer's name.
Jodie Foster was in that, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was in that, and she did a terrific job. It
Oh, that
was a
was a great
very
movie.
well
I
done.
love that movie. It was
And
terrific.
somebody help me out. I'm blanking on. Carl Sagan was he wrote a novel. He usually wrote nonfiction, but he wrote
billion.
Yeah.
that one science fiction story, and they made it into a really good book. And yeah, it seriously explores the idea that we're not alone in the universe. And I just want to close by saying, when I was in an undergraduate in college, I signed up for the course that Carl Sagan taught, but I didn't look carefully. He was on sabbatical. But I ended up one of the professors that did teach instead was Frank Drake. And he put together the Frank Drake's equation, where he estimated the likelihood of intelligent life out there somewhere in our galaxy. And he said it's virtually 100%. There's just so many stars out there, and our galaxy is so much older than the Earth that given all that time, all that space, that it's inevitable that intelligent life forms somewhere else.
Well, the question now is that with all these years of Trump in the White House, do we still qualify as intelligent life? I
We
think
might have
that,
lost that.
yeah, we
we
might
might
have
have, we
lost
might have to reapply.
our UL rating here is gone. Steve will give you the last word. And thank you, Mike, for that. And thank you, Mike and Steve, for working to put this together with MYLA and Tatanka and so many. And thank you again, Tatanka, for your work chairing the board of KPFK. Steve, go ahead, and then we're gonna take everybody out. It's
Yeah.
been
So
wonderful. Still got 43 people. It's unreal. Go
who
ahead.
would who would think that God's evolving? You are experiencing God for God. And if you want to live in eternity, you have to maintain. That's all. And if you can't maintain, then they'll just get rid of you and it'll be grafted onto some other good part. So that's
Well, with
think
that,
about
okay.
that.
And everybody, this has been another incredible session. We have such great people. Thanks to Greg Palast and Ray McClendon and Wade Rathke and Allison and Dave Saltman and Tatanka and some other. And we're sorry we had a good guest on and he had to leave, so we'll bring him back, Mike, if we can talk about that. Everybody, no nukes. We'll see you in Solartopia, and I guess I'll see you at the movie theater. But I haven't been in one for a long time, but I'm looking forward to it. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Same time, no nukes. Take care, Paul. Everybody, we'll see you in maybe some other planet next time. To talk, be our travel agent. Okay.